Been a minute now. The gratitude source. Gratitude to the all. Clap it up for yourself. Whoa. Has it really been a minute? Not really. Man. Whoa. I don't even know how to. Where do I begin? The topic at hand. Wow, y'all ready for this one? Y'all got popcorn? I don't see some popcorn. The topic at hand. Never lose sight of your innocence. This is gonna be a huge one. Never lose sight of your innocence. And that could be expressed in many ways. It's like, never again lose sight of your innocence. I did a recording earlier, but I should have did a video, but I was just in the process of just like, it was just eating me up inside. I was like, okay. I just been in a deep reflective moment, embracing it like a new chapter in my life, to where it's like, you know, your upbringing can be different, to where you're so used to a narrative, you're so used to an environment or a home that can be dysfunctional, loud, slamming things. You know, and this is not everyone, but from experiencing something like that, you can be in something to where it's like, it just seems like out of the ordinary, or even it can just seem like abnormal or out of this world, that you're in a place, you know, those that can relate and those that will, where you have or have done this inner work. Some may call it shadow work, and to get to this place where you are at this inner peace, this ambiance of like harmony and balance, to where, you know, you can rest at night without a scattered mind or an overpowered mind. So I realized just fasting or distancing myself from social media for a minute, it really just helps you really focus, which I feel that a relationship with yourself, which is I believe a relationship with source or the creator, or some may say they go to God with themselves when they pray, so forth. You know, there's so many different things you can look at it. But just that, now enjoying that, let me tell you, it's like getting back to that. And that's why I'm speaking on never to lose sight again of your innocence. And this is why it's so important and so vital, because I feel that's what humanity in the whole has lost sight of, is the innocence and the purity, the morality, the principles that holds everything together like glue. You know, that things that very simple thing that connects us. And I'm not just talking about love, and I'm not just talking about authenticity. I'm talking about that thing that you can close your eyes and just ponder on. Wherever you were in your childhood, you had no care in the world. You didn't worry about responsibilities of doing certain things, literally removing the title and just seeing yourself with no identity, no care, no worries, no burden, so forth. And it's that innocence of just like, whoa. Along my journey, it just took me a while. For those of you that are new or coming in, I've spoken a lot about my journey when it comes to healing, spiritual, and so forth. I had an experience early with my princess. We went to something I never did before, but I'm realizing how I'm being restored because I'm choosing. So when I'm saying I've healed and been on this healing journey, it's a choosing, it's a choice. You know, you hear this oversaturation of being chosen. that in itself is because one is choosing. I've been on a path. The healing path consists of self-improvement, self-discipline, self-love, self-care. Things that, again, we weren't shown, but at the same moment, I feel some of us, the awakening aspect of who we are and what we're coming into is just not only just to see the pain and the dysfunctional or the dishonesty or the foundations that corrupted us, but also to be able to see past the superficial, the false illusions, or the false illusions of powers. And I can go on, and that being on a, micro and macro level, from, something so simple, small, to something so big on societal level and so forth. So it's just been like an amazing process that I'm learning, not only with myself, but through the eyes of my princess, through the eyes of, my partner and so forth, through the eyes of others with new experiences, new connections, and, really coming to that awareness of how I realized to give myself credit. Because at a point we were doing everything, or we were taught to do everything for everyone. And that's simply because a lot of our caregivers lost sight of their innocence, of their purity, or morals and principles. And that could be through so many different dynamics. So, what did I write? So the topic is, again, another thing that I've been experiencing is going through a lot of internal anger, frustration, a lot of childhood things that, again, it's like a new chapter. It's like a book. Like, you can turn the page, but in you turning your page, not that it matters to you, but someone else still may be, you may have someone who judged the book by its cover without even simply reading anything about or knowing anything about your life. Or you may have someone who comes in a point in your life, I'm glad I turned to this, is vital, comes in the point in your life where they're just knowing you. And I think this is so beautiful, because there are aspects where we are more emotionally embedded, or what's the word I'm looking for? I'll just say emotionally more connected, depending who it is in our lives. Some may say family, so forth. We may be emotionally, the word is right there. Oh my gosh. Anywho, we may be invested. We may be so more emotionally invested in the others, and then some random or some stranger. But I feel what's happening as the shift and awakening, whatever you want to call it, comes about, is that now we're realizing that on a soul level, we're recognizing people on a deeper level, to where there's a deeper level of awareness with these people. That's something significant there. And that, and that's another topic, because, I can go into, some may talk about past lives and soul connections, soulmate, so forth. But anywho, I'm glad I flipped to this page, because, again, there was something I was watching, and it brought me to this topic that I'm speaking about now, is to never lose sight of our innocence ever again. And the reason I want to bring this to y'all, because it's so vital, because I had a clarity moment, or a major insight moment as I was driving, and it just came to me. I'm like, hold on, pause. I gotta talk about this. And I remember this video I was watching. I said, hold on, it's something that the sister noted in there, and I said, I gotta write this down. And it says, a lot of us don't even realize this, but this is very vital. It says, no one has really ever had the chance to be a child or a baby. Now, I don't know if I said this in other videos, but it makes a lot of sense, because a lot of us so early were force-fed, whether it be religion, force-fed responsibilities. A lot of things were forced on us early from caregivers, from people who were not self-aware how that would affect us as we grow. and or those who ran from their own traumas, childhood experience traumas, and or did not want to take accountability. So that really, I said to my partner, I said, love, hold on. I said, one thing we gotta, remember no matter what is that never to let go or, lose ourselves, let go of that idea of just that innocence, that purity that we felt we did not get as a child, but now, basically having fun, or that innocence and being who we are without getting lost in the idea of adulthood, or mother, fatherly roles, auntie, uncle, all these roles, these identities and personalities that we have developed, but remembering to never lose sight of our innocence. And so what I realized is that, speaking with her, I realized we both have been affected, and a lot of us have been affected by or have been emotionally neglected or abandoned or abused. So, and however it looks for everyone else is different. But what I'm speaking about and getting to the root of is that in some way, some form, if you look at your career, if you look at wherever you are, no matter your status, no matter your identity, creed, culture, whatever, there is a part, and I'm not saying everyone, but there is a high percentage of a lot of people who did not have the chance to really feel or be innocent, in the sense of like the innocence probably feeling like it's been taken away. And that could be through having experienced a caregiver that experienced substance abuse, or you maybe experienced verbal, physical abuse, sexual traumas, so forth. And so a part of that innocence was stripped or ripped away. And so it's like a lot of our caregivers or mothers and so forth, grandmothers, did not have that experience also to even be innocent or be a baby. Because they were, again, from my own experience, I just remember, again, when my mom was doing what she was doing out in the street, choosing substance abuse and so forth, I had an early responsibility of being a father at the age in elementary school, watching 3 other kids. So that in itself, the root of that is the emotional, what I wrote down is how the generational emotional neglect, the patterns that I also inherited, and also my sisters. And you're seeing this sporadically out in your, our lineages and so forth. And so what I realized is like how I had to connect that and see the root of how that matriarchally connected to me with my mother, grandmothers, and grandmother, great grandmother, and so forth, and patriarchally. My dad leaving or departing and not really knowing the narrative of why he left and so forth. So that leaves, again, a young boy and myself having a stepfather, but just leaving that idea of like not knowing, does this person exist? Is this person alive? Did they care about me? It leaves so many things up in the air, and then you don't realize you come to this self-awareness as you get of age, that you realize, whoa, did I really have a chance to be innocent or be a baby? Because a part of that emotional abandonment or neglect or those abandonment issues, I was forced early to be responsible and not, for myself, in the sense of parenting or being a guardian for myself, or, and that being just basically my childhood my childhood being stripped away from me, and you can see this a lot in families, sports, entertainment, the corruption all across the board. And so for me, my experience, I realized like, wow, I could see the emotional abuse, not just verbal abuse, but just naturally placing me in the, me being, I had to be like 5, 6, 7, basically elementary school, but at a young age to be in a position where I'm needing my mom's emotional support. But she's showing me, I'm visually soaking this up, that she's showing me that she needs this drug or whatever it is more than her own son or kids. So at a time, you're trying to make sense as a child, but you're soaking this up, and then you develop a personality through this. This is developing your character. The first 7 years of your life, the first, from 0 to 3, 4, 5, 6, you're developing this. And so with that, I realized that was how I inherently, we inherit these traumas generationally, whether that be emotional neglect, abandonment, physical abuse, all different types of trauma, you can call them generational curses, until we come to the awareness, looking at it from a polarity aspect, negative and positive. So then that goes up to, I also mentioned societal emotional neglect and or denied denied these things when you try to speak up, you're shunned. So I can see how that played out even in the schools and so forth. Because, here I am, trying to fight for this attention that I'm not receiving. And at the same time, a part of me is just trying to not lose sight of my innocence in a way, because I'm in the schools or I'm in these places and I'm wanting all this attention that I'm not receiving. So I'm trying to express that through my artistry. I'm trying to express this through my verbal exchange, things that I've taken on and thinking that this is healthy, a healthy dialogue to talk to the teacher this way, to speak to people this way, to say this and say that. And I'm like, this whole time I'm viewed, in your mind, you're innocent, because here you are as a child taking on these things. I'm innocent. So you're taking on these things. A lot of us have taken on this narrative. We don't see it as, some of us, oh, he's bad, he's this or that. But why? What's the root of that? Because in it all, the innocence is still there. It's just what we have not only received in a home, but also when we're going to these places. Here it is, we're spewing out, however you want to say, like our what we've been hoarding as a child. Because we cannot do that there at home. Because if we do, there's some type of backlash. There's some type of, devaluing or automatically you're crucified, or for just trying to be authentic or innocent. So that leads me to being in that position where I felt like my innocence was taken away. Okay, baby, you can just put the bowl on the table, okay? So that immediately put a lot of us, what we don't even realize, a lot of us were forced to be in immediate or, immediately we was put in places where we were responsible. Taking care of the kids, feeding ourselves, mom and dad not coming home, or mom being at work 12 hours, so many things that, again, when we don't realize and see the patterns, that we thinking this is normal, that mama's out here, that dad's out here. We thinking that's normal, that dad's in prison or out there on the corner doing that. A lot of dudes taking on this now. We thinking that's normal. And a lot of us, again, the world has portrayed so much of an external dialogue to where the powers that were, the focus was just, well, look how he looks. Look at what color he is, or look at their, all these things that focus so much of external judge, to judge people externally, rather than to see the innocence, the root of where and how these behavior patterns came to be. So a lot of our upbringing, we ended up taking care of, like mom, siblings, and so forth. The need, a lot of things that, again, I learned, just that young. It's like I was forced. Are you okay? Just forced again to be responsible for other kids, which was not even my responsibility. I was forced into that. So at that moment, I didn't even realize a part of my innocence where I wanted to, as a kid, to just go out and play, do things. I was pushed into a narrative. And over time, what that created was a dialogue that I eventually would grow into, where it would create resentment towards the mother, towards the grandmother, towards whomever placed us in that. Because what I'm going to speak about now is like a lot of these mothers and or grandmothers that hold a lot of this internal resentment or this internal traumas, this internal pain. Where you going with that, baby? Daddy doing a video, okay? So I'm not. Okay, you can put it right there. So again, a lot of our grandmothers and mothers, this in another topic that I'm sliding in here, is like that internal pain, that internal, that inner image that they never faced. And so what has happened, they lost sight of their innocence. They lost sight of their innocence. So that forced them to create a narrative or create a character that was everything but authentic and truthful. And, then they began to put on this mask. But at home, they will be rageful, have all this internal pain, but never have a safe place to really talk about it. Or let's say a lot of mothers that didn't have a man there, or, and they didn't have a safe place, whether it was abusive home, so many different narratives and dialogues that I can go on and on about, but they never really had that safe place. So they're still forced to, not to mention, carry generational baggage, generational courage, still forced to, as soon as they go outside, put on this mask. And it's not that they want to. It's like for a lot of mothers, who have went through a lot of things, is that they need to, for the sake of themselves, their career, their job. Some of them, forced to, a lot of their innocence that was removed. They're carrying a lot of this guilt and shame around how people will view them, how people will accept them if they don't. What come out, baby? What's going on? Did you pee? What you do then, baby? Are you watching the show? What? Oh, your pants came down? Mm-hmm. Okay, you pull them up. There you go. Oh, be careful, baby. So, okay. So a lot of our mothers, again, or a lot of women, when we look at the foundations of everything, they've been having so much of an internal dialogue that in their mind or inside, it's like it's eating them alive, and they don't know who to talk to. They don't really know who's safe, not to mention other women who also have went through something similar. So here it is, they're entrusting their secrets, their emotions, and they're looking for that emotional support that they didn't receive from their mothers. So here it is that they have sisters or some girls that they call their sisters and so forth. That innocent aspect of them wants to engage in that, but the messiness all around, how so many of our women have been corrupted because again, they lost sight of their innocence. Our mothers, our grandmothers have lost sight of their innocence. The little girls within them that haven't been nurtured, tended to, someone really actively listening to their traumas or whatever it is that they're battling with. Not to mention the emotional neglect societally, how they are received through the image, through the lens as a melanated dark woman or black woman, however you want to categorize it. and or other women, how, again, this lens and how this is portrayed to the world. So a part of them, they having what y'all like to, say this masculine, but, a lot of them had to, or else. Whether you want to call it dishonesty or lie, but a lot of those foundations were created specifically because some of them didn't have any other choice. And because they didn't know better at that moment. And so you're talking about a narrative or a programming that has went on for so long to where I even realized that my mother had no connection to her own innocence. She completely lost sight of that. Was it there at a point in time? Absolutely. But does it gradually creep up? Childhood wounding, certain things that you go through, traumas, you interacting with people, you thinking that you got away 5-10 years along down the line. And they lost sight of their innocence. And that's why I feel with a lot of our mothers who have been had traumatic experience, they lost sight of that little girl. And so that affects the little boys. And I was lucky or just grateful to come into this awareness to realize that I lost sight of my innocence until I realized that a part of me choosing to heal, choosing that people will fall away, choosing that, not staying in that loop, wanting to continue these generational traumas and cycles. No, I was the one that I have to see, why does this keep happening? What is going on? What is the root of this? So I'm able to see, let me see. Yeah, like I said, the mothers, they lost sight of their innocence and their purity. And we're responsible now, the generation now, those that are selected and to do this, as we hold ourselves accountable, we too hold them accountable. That's how the healing begins. It's not about blaming. You're talking about a societally, collectively, the emotional neglect that has happened through those systems where, you're giving them, these so-called resources, whether it's food stamps, all these other things, but the emotional support behind it, there's no emotional support. It's just a handout. A lot of things is just simply handout with no type of genuine support or love in it. So you're talking about not only this has affected the family, the innocence has been removed in humanity. Humanity has lost sight of their innocence. I mean, look at the TV, look at the shows, a lot of stuff that is just teaching them, kids and all that stuff. It's like the overly sexualized things, it's like an immediate thing to make them grow up to see themselves in a adult aspect. It's removing the innocence in every shape or form. White walls, no colors, no nothing that reminds you of, the innocence in the rainbow. The innocence is in everything. And this is no way attacking people. Again, the innocence before anything was flipped to try to change the narrative of how a child should even simply blossom into who they are here to be. Everyone has been affected by that. Before you were given religion, before you were given anything, this is how our childhood woundings have been preyed upon. So my message is never losing sight of that ever again. Me and my princess, we went, something I never did today. Was it today? Well, yeah. Snow just came out of nowhere where I was. And my partner had found this little sled, and I didn't even know these things. Like, I didn't even know, some people like, you sledding? Like, what is sledding? Little thing that you slide on. But where I'm from, we don't have a lot of hills. So my princess and I went to, I said, hold on, I'm just going to take her to go slide or whatever, go up this hill. It'll be a great thing. when I arrive, I'm thinking it's just going to be us. That's just me. Sometimes I don't want to deal with, humans. I don't want to deal with everybody. It is what it is, to each his own. But the beauty of when I arrived, her excitement, my excitement, then I realized is the divine, as you do this inner work and as you come to that knowingness and awareness how a lot of us have been robbed or stripped, or how societally or the powers that were, or even through so many things that our innocence, it's like our childhood woundings were preyed upon. When you start to see these structures societally, governmentally, so forth, the innocence that we are being restored with now, the purity, the morals, the principles. And so just us arriving there, and I'm like, okay. And the beauty of where I'm about to get into is like also the topic of how not losing sight of being not losing myself and being a father. And so we went there, and, I got the little sled out the trunk. I said, okay, you ready? And so naturally, again, I'm going to give y'all bits and pieces of how the divine revealed to me after we did the sled thing, but riding back, told me not to ever lose sight of your innocence, and how that connects to never losing sight of being a father. And I was like, okay, where are you getting at? Baby daddy trying to do a video. You trying to do everything. This is how I know you ain't taking no nap. Surprise, baby. Okay, I'm gonna do it one time. Surprise. Okay, daddy gonna finish the video. Pull your pants. Surprise. But anyway, yeah. And it's beautiful because it just reminds me to embrace that innocence again. And that's why I feel like I realized I was so far gone and not losing sight of being a father, but also being a child. Being a kid is what I'm saying. Like the innocence and not getting so lost or overindulged or drowning in the identity of whether it's your career, whether it's your status, whatever you're doing, just drowning in that and losing sight of who you really are to the divine, to source, to the God, to creator, whatever your higher source is, in a sense of like that purity that that in some way, whatever you're doing and however you come in whatever stage or phase you are in your life, seeing how that was stripped away through the monetary system, through the school system, through anything, through your upbringing. So with that, getting back to the story, it's things like that where there were moments where I would feel like, okay, what is this emotion? Why do I feel a certain way if she comes and just wants to express herself? So a lot of that, again, goes back to the inheriting the emotional neglect that I've seen in my family dynamic. The emotional abandonment where, you had things where you see a child cry and they just leave them there. Or you see a child cry and it's be quiet, hush, so forth. I've seen that. And I've had moments to where I relived it in a sense to where it brought the self-awareness, like, what am I doing? Because I told myself I'm not going to at all portray a perfect image because we all going through something. And I'm not going to ever come on here, let alone I always say I assess things in myself before I come on here. Because that's the thing that you will see that there is no authenticity in a lot of what you see displayed in the distractions externally or, social media and so forth. A lot of it, again, the people that aren't aware is that a lot of that it's keeping them from their innocence or really having fun without a camera, without certain things, without certain, you telling the world your happiness or portraying the world that you're this and that. When someone who's authentic and just pure, you can feel the frequency, the energy of seeing like, okay, this is just someone who's expressing. Or it's an expression. Like I said, to each its own, to where I'm just observing and learning through like, oh my gosh, like, whoa. I saw this years ago when you see the certain people just come on there and trying to portray their families or certain things as such. And I'm like, that's not even a half of it. And that's the thing. There's a polarity to everything. So I'm not at all going to sit here and portray like, oh, this is. No, I'm working through, getting through my own shit, my own healing, and trying to show up. So that's why the divine said, I don't want you to lose sight of you ever again, your innocence. Because your mother and your father and so forth, this has been going on, but it stops with you. That goes for all of you. And that means with those generational curses that stop with you, that means the emotional neglect, the abandoning, the self-abandonment, the self-abuse, the verbal abuse, all those things. And it's a process, y'all. It's a process. I mean, the healing journey is like an onion. It's layers. So getting back to that, we went to the sled thing. And I was like, I never sled before, but here we are. I was so at the moment, so caught up in, let her experience this. Let me make sure she experiences it. And the divine, after that, I was like, hold on. As I realized, I started to see the kids and I started to see the fathers, the mothers, all of them. I said, hold on, pause. I deserve and I desire to experience and have a life of happiness, peace, harmony. I too deserve this. So where I'm getting at is that we got the part of how we lost our innocence is because we've seen caregivers or people who have carried so much guilt, shame, low vibrational things around what they did not receive or did not experience, projected it onto us as a child. And in that projection, oh, you need to go do this. You need to go do this. If you don't do this, then you won't be successful. But what about being at peace? What about the value, the success aspect in being peaceful and harmony and living within your means? Not trying to keep up with the Joneses of the world society. What about the value of just being who you are, who you came here to be? Not the identity or losing yourself in the identity of society or what the government, anybody says. Because that's where the accountability comes. That where you break generational curses. When I realize, I'm like, hold on, I deserve to slide down this thing too. And that's why I realized, like, to see her joy, it reflected back to me to realize, like, I deserve that too. So when you see out in the world, someone going through their dark stage or their internal warfare or spiritual warfare and so forth, they've been robbed or they something they don't realize or they don't think that they're capable or deserving, if there's a word, or desire anything more than just their shame and guilt or something greater. It's not to say that it's not. You okay? It's not to say that it's not there within them, the light. It's just they don't feel they have the courage. And see, that's what deciphers fear and love. See, love is going to make you face it head on. Love is going to make you feel uncomfortable. See, love and authenticity, higher frequencies, is going to, make you feel uncomfortable, that nervousness, that shyness in a way, but you still go forward. See, I could have just been like, oh, I'm going to just let her enjoy this, sled thing. But I was like, no. Once I saw her go down, because I was in that what we call father mode, like, okay, let me make sure, be protected, make sure she don't flip over. In my mind about it, I was like, no, stop. I too had to channel my inner child, my essence, and realize, you know what, I deserve this too. I do. And what I did, I eventually, told myself, seeing her go down, I said, oh, you know what, let me go down with her. And just that experience of doing it for the first time. And when the last time, or when have you done something new that, outside of your own comfort zone for the first time? That uncomfortability, you getting out of that to face the fear of stepping out of your comfort zone. And so what that did for me is like, it was like an adrenaline rush. It really adrenaline rush. I was being restored with the innocence. I was removing those blockages of experiencing happiness and joy and peace within, instead of allowing those mental blockages, barricades that in the past that I built, or in the past that I took on from other people saying, well, you need to do this as a father. You need to be this as a father. And that was from their own, based off their own experiences, from their own perception or perspective of what I should and shouldn't be, how I should. No, it takes a lot of courage to step in your own and take back your own power and be who you are, without the caring about the opinions of others, or more so societally anywhere. Your partner, even your kids. So when I did that, I was like, yo, let me slide down. And I did it, and it was just amazing. Because then I began to realize it's a together, it's a oneness. Let us enjoy this together. And even though I'm bigger or different age, to source, to God, to the divine, or whatever, we both were innocent. And no matter what, it brought us both, the joy was already there. It was experiencing it with the happiness, the bliss of just blocking out everything and going down. And so with that, after we did that, I was like, wow, I just did something. And the self-awareness around it, I'm like, yo, after we were riding and returning, it hit me. I was like, the insight, it was just a clarity moment to where I was like, hold on. Spirit say, never lose sight. Don't ever lose yourself. Never lose sight of your innocence again. I was like, okay, what? And I want you to share this message. I'm like, so going back to the father aspect, is that was something I was pondering on months. And I told my partner, I said, I'm not going to lose myself in what it is to be a father. And the reason I say that is because we have listened and been programmed so much on what it is to be a man. Got so lost in gender. We got so lost in, these false identities of what it is to be authentic, what it is to show up every day. And the reason I say that is because I was on my own journey prior to arriving and being in the presence of my princess and my partner. So in my world, in her world, in my partner, that's three different worlds. My partner has her own childhood experience, her own healing, her own everything as a woman. My princess at her age is experiencing, learning her emotions, learning her everything, trying to navigate that. And here it is, she has two, guardians or caregivers at the moment. From my perception, I'm healing my emotional traumas and abuse and abandonment issues and so forth. That doesn't just stop. So when I'm in her presence, it's like those things get illuminated, because it immediately reminds me of the guilt that I've been harboring, the shame and so forth. So that triggers, and sometimes where there is I said, sometimes I've lost myself in the identity of, well, I'm her father, so forth. And it's like, that doesn't even come with a manual. And that's the thing. It's like we've been given a manual or transcript from somebody else, how it is we should live our lives, or what it is that our destiny should be. Thank you, baby. I appreciate it. What is that, Tiger? Thank you.
Daddy, I should.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So, thank you, love. So in that, again, we've been given a blueprint, transcript, or whatever from our mothers, and I don't mean just physically, I'm talking about spiritually, unconsciously, not to mention what we've been programmed subconsciously to believe and to take on. My partner's emotional her emotional upbringing, what she received. I mainly grew up with a lot of women. There were men, but her upbringing, she had a father, and then, but I ain't gonna go too much into depth, but she had a mother, but in a sense, it just goes to show like how her gaining her emotional maturity or intelligence, or however that is, her gaining her awareness around that is completely different in mine. But the feminine and masculine principles, again, this is where you see the dynamics. Let me break this down. It's like, depending on that father and or mother that we've experienced and how they experience emotions, what they learn, how it is to even express. And so sometimes we're not even aware that we've been emotionally neglected and didn't receive the nurturing, whether it be physical, some people didn't have that caregiver that was, on an intimate setting. And that's something that I'm realizing even with my princess. It's like on an intimate level, it's not just verbal exchange, telling someone you love them. It's the pouring into them that they're valuable, that they're, amazing and so forth. So on the intimate aspect, the touch, the hugging, there were things that were illuminated with my partner and I, and even my princess, to where a lot of us didn't. That emotional abandonment and neglect that we experience, that we're aware of now with abandonment issues, a lot of that comes into play when you do bring a child into this world, or when that innocence of that child will illuminate the innocence that you don't see, but at the same moment, it will illuminate those dark aspects of yourself that you refuse to see, that guilt and shame, or things centered around what you experienced as a child, so you can return to that innocence. And so that I expressed to my partner, I said that looks different from you, because naturally, the motherly energy, or the mother, is more nurturing or emotional and so forth. She teaches us that. So you can be in a dynamic, or a lot of us have been in a dynamic where our mothers wasn't emotional, where we experience emotional neglect or abandonment or abuse, so forth. So how that plays out in certain dynamics in relationships, we can get in a relationship with people who display that same pattern or behavior, thinking that we are in something that's normal, thinking that we are, or assuming that we have, just because we're not around mom, or we moved on, or in a marriage, partnership, and so forth, and not realizing that we're only sheltering and covering up the, harboring that guilt and running away from the innocence that we really need to run towards. But that innocence has been blocked or barricaded, or walls have been built up from the abandonment, emotional neglect, and so forth, that is internal. And so those are the things that we are clearing on the healing journey. It's like removing this and seeing like, oh my gosh, hold on. I thought, but I just did. And so when you're in a partnership or relationship, even with your kids, it's like, there's so many things I become more self-aware of, that I assume that I knew about emotions, that I assume that I knew about women. And it's not just gender, but more so the energy of the feminine principles and the masculine aspect. Seeing how that is reflected or mirrored back in partnerships, in businesships, in, platonic, whatever it is, outside of the titles. How we have developed so much of a society that has programmed us to feel guilt and shame, and preyed on our childhood woundings, that we shouldn't feel still great and amazing and brilliant, and limitless, which we naturally are. So the awareness even around how a lot of us have been affected by this aspect of how We've carried so much guilt and shame. We carry mama and daddy guilt and shame or burdens of what if we don't succeed or we don't do this, then we're not valuable. And that's BS. So, and this is where you can see the selfish attachments as you progress in life, as you elevate, as you really start to realize that tough love from mom and daddy. It's not to say there wasn't love there, but the selfish aspect of that, the selfish attachment, the controlling, the narcissistic behaviors, they, in their lens, see that as, at a point in time, we saw that as that tough love as, oh, it's a flower. These things are beautiful. But in reality, once you come to that self-awareness and really go within, these are the people or energies that represents weeds in your life. Because as you become accountable for yourself and start to see the self-awareness in that, then you will see how the selfish attachment to the idea of you, because again, we have developed these false identities, these personality traits, these same things that we inherited, that our mother and grandmother and grandfather inherited, that we can no longer ignore or brush up under the rug. So in being accountable, we force them to be accountable, which brings healing and love. Yes, love. You want me to stop? You can give me that look? Yes. The movie? Okay. One moment, be right back. Be careful. Okay. There we go. Be careful on this. Come on, get down. We're not standing in front of it. We're not standing in front of it. You know we're not doing that. Where just go? Go put it back in the bathroom. You can put it right there. We don't stand in front of the TV, baby. We're not doing that, right? You can sit on it. Okay, we're not jumping, okay? We're not jumping off that. You gotta be careful. So, yeah, I have to finish that. Is there anything else I'd like to talk about? But, no, that's not what that's for. I know you may not like that, but we're not doing that, love. Okay, I can say this before I close this out, but this is why the divine has placed us, a lot of us, in our family dynamics, whatever you want to call it, to here to create that change. We are the seeds that are growing and still growing, and this is why a lot of us have been placed in these uncomfortable environments and places, and specifically families. A lot of us have been placed there purposefully to create a shift and a change, and is uncomfortable. It may have been or will be. It's so purposeful. It's so worth it, and because a lot of us have been fighting, and this is one thing I can attest to, is like a lot of us have been fighting for our self-worth, our self-value, and this goes back to the innocence of who we are, of how we now, in being responsible and accountable for who we are emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and so forth. All of that connected to that is a part of regaining that innocence and never losing sight of it again, because that trickles down to our seeds and so forth. So a lot of the beauty that we're regaining, it's not just the superficial material stuff. It's you're regaining a sense of peace in your life, a sense of harmony and balance, a sense of, a higher level of awareness of, realizing that I can live within my own means. I can be comfortable within myself, or I could, be comfortable in my own skin. no matter what it is I have externally. I can be who I am unapologetically. I can be my authentic self. So a lot of us have through the years I know myself, have been fighting again so much for that self-worth or that self-value. And how that looks is like fighting for myself, my dignity, through the uncomfortability of not having the genuine support and people just being more just surveillance and just watching. And me getting to that place within myself that I'm at peace where I am, wherever I go, I'm at peace with the past. And that's okay. And so whatever comes, whatever goes, I can be at peace with that. So the beauty of that, again, is a lot of us just remember that you are the seed or the flower, wherever you are, that is continuing to grow no matter. Lily, where you at? Lily, do not, baby.